veteran with PTSD. I was formerly on 13 different pills, pharma pills and medications that I was prescribed through by the VA. I was suicidal at one point in my life there. Because of that, I believe. I also now only use cannabis in the evenings. I know I only have a minute here, so I'm going to be fast. I'm really stressing the importance of ending that 3-month waiting period and allowing safe access for veterans to cannabis. PTSD is a condition of isolation, and the the idea that a veteran is not going to be allowed to access that medicine with only as a last resort is horrifying to me. There's 20 vets a day that are committing suicide due to this. That 90-day waiting period and the ability to access cannabis needs to be implemented for the veteran community there. Veterans are returning home from war, and we're fighting a new war here in America, and it's a suicide and opioid epidemic in this country. And I only hope that you hear me on that. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pickering. Next up is Bob Morgan from Chicago, Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, my name is Bob Morgan. I'm the former director of the Illinois Medical Cannabis Program. Thank you for having me today. Really wanted just to introduce myself, let you know I work with legislatures and regulators around the country as they develop their medical cannabis programs similar to the processes what you are going through right now. I've had the opportunity to meet with some of you, so I'm here as a resource for you, and I appreciate the time and the commitment that you've already shown in implementing this bill and making sure you provide access to those patients throughout the state. I only have 3 quick comments and recommendations. First would be have high standards. Standards for the businesses, that's yet to be determined as the legislature comes together and what this final package should look like, but make sure you have high standards that results in high quality for the patients. Second is to stay true and focused on the patients themselves. It's easy to lose track of why we're all here, but at the end of the day, there are hundreds of thousands of people in all of our districts, in your communities, that would benefit from medical cannabis. So stay true and stay focused on that, and make sure you don't create unnecessary barriers for those residents and those patients. And third, congratulations and urge you to continue on your transparency that you've already shown, both to have these public hearings and the department's future rulemaking. It's very critical to make sure that there's buy-in and there's a belief that this system is created in a way that's fair to all. So I'm available to all of you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Rolando Vasquez from Miami, Florida.
Thank you for having me today. Thank you guys for having me today. I'll be quick. My name is Rolando Vasquez. I'm the president of Greenacre Consulting Team. There are currently some issues I want to point out in the current medical marijuana program that hopefully don't carry on to the new one. First, there's an issue of safety. Currently, those who have the ability to cultivate a process also have the ability to test their own material. There's clearly a conflict of interest there. Out of respect for the patients and to err on the side of safety, this should not be allowed under the current or new program. There's also an issue of reliability. There's 7 suppliers in the state currently, and this flat out will not cover the demands under the new laws. We have 20 million constituents. States with 5 million or less have hundreds to thousands of suppliers. So 7 suppliers and under the new program just won't cut it. Finally, there's an issue of affordability. 7 suppliers for the state of Florida with 20 million constituents is tantamount to a monopoly. Under a monopoly, you get high prices and poor quality. Florida needs to provide safe, reliable, and affordable access to medical marijuana patients. My end point is that Florida needs to embrace an open market, and those who cultivate and process should not be allowed to test their own material. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I apologize to Daniel Sparks of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who wanted to speak but won't have an opportunity. Michael Minardi from Tampa, Florida, who won't have an opportunity to speak. Jody James from Melbourne. Gary Stein from Wesley Chapel. And Josephine Canella Krell from Tallahassee. And finally, John Hightower from Tallahassee. In the last minute and a half, members, while it's your right as a committee member to offer handwritten amendments on bills that are presented to this subcommittee, I would like to point out 3 things. Number 1, a handwritten amendment is prone to error as it is spur of the moment by its nature. Secondly, A handwritten amendment cannot be carefully reviewed by the chair, the vice chair, the ranking member, nor any other member of the subcommittee prior to voting. Thirdly, a handwritten amendment cannot be carefully reviewed by the bill's sponsor to determine its effect on the substance of the bill or to determine whether it's a friendly, unfriendly amendment. Bills can always be amended at the next committee stop. This is generally a first subcommittee stop for every single bill. It's always possible to vote yes on a bill but express reservations and suggest that a subsequent amendment is needed prior to your approval on the floor. So as a matter of courtesy to your fellow members, I would ask you to think very hard and carefully before you consider offering a handwritten amendment. This concludes our subcommittee agenda. Representative Yarborough moves we rise. Unless there is an objection upon the motion of Representative Yarborough, the meeting is adjourned.